we had a doctor and a dentist guarding Horford and Noah, which was not ideal.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily podcast on fantasy basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast, brought to you by Fantrax and Basketball Monster. And today's Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast is also brought to you by Mike Stein, who's today's Patreon sponsor. If you want to become like Mike and sponsor, be like Mike. There you go. Didn't even intend that. And sponsor the show, head across to patreon.com/redrock_bball. My name is Josh Lloyd, and you can find me on Twitter at redrock_bball. The same on Instagram and facebook.com/redrockbasketball, where you can watch this show live each night after the games finish. We're going to talk about all of Wednesday's action. We're going to preview the 5-game Thursday we've got coming up. So
let's get to it.
All right, let's do that indeed. We will start with the monstrous line of the night, and I believe it might be his first one for this season, and that is Rudy Gobert of the Utah Jazz. Gobert has always been, well, not always, the last 2.5 seasons he has been an elite rebounder. He's been a fantastic shot blocker. He's been a pretty good anchor for your field goal percentage. But now he is turning into an offensive force as well. He had 35 points in this game, a career high, 13 rebounds, he had an assist, he had a steal, he had 4 blocks, he was 13 of 14 from the field, and he went to the line 12 times, hitting 9 of them. He is the 8th ranked player over the last month. He's 22nd over the course of the season. And in that last month, he is averaging 16 and 13.5, 3.1 blocks, shooting 70% from the field. Yes, he is only shooting 64% from the line on almost 6 attempts a game, which puts him into that punt category. He's not always a punt free throw guy, but he's pretty close. And generally, if someone's a -2 Z score in a category, I will say you're pretty close to punt territory. And for the season, he is that. And it's been worse lately, just 55% over the last 2 weeks on 5 attempts. So he is a guy that you do have to pay significant attention to the free throw percentage, but the fact that he is the 8th ranked player in the last month while still being a significant negative in that category just shows if you're playing in that category, he's probably top 4, top 5 maybe, maybe higher. That is the strength of those numbers. We're talking DeAndre Jordan type impact in field goal percentage, in rebounds, in blocks, even bigger in blocks, and he's scoring more. It's really been fantastic to see him increase this offensive load. Last year, he played 32 minutes a game and took 5.8 shots per game. This year for the season, he's at 7.4, but the last 2 weeks, he's taking over 10 shots a game. So that's double. We're seeing his usage come up to almost average, is at 18% over the last 2 weeks. Average usage is 20 because you've got 5 guys on the court, 100% usage. 5 divided by 100 is 20. So he's almost at average usage, and shooting, a true shooting of 71% over the last month is ridiculous, and that's translating into these fantastic numbers that we're getting from Big Rudy Gobert. You'd have to think that is he the favorite for Defensive Player of the Year? I would say he's close to it. It's obviously him, Draymond, or Kawhi that's going to get it, and he's got a real chance of becoming an All-NBA center. On one of these teams. There is competition, obviously, Nikola Jokic, Marc Gasol, if you want to throw Anthony Davis as a center, which you probably should. You put Boogie in that group. There is a few centers to discuss when it comes to All-NBA, but what Gobert is doing has been ridiculous. I haven't looked at it for a while, but at one stage he had the best defensive rating in the NBA and like 5th best offensive rating for the far and away the best net rating for a player over the course of the season. He's been ridiculous. So Rudy Gobert is your monstrous line of the night. Let's talk waiver wire line of the night, and it goes to Darren Williams of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Darren had 19 points with 4 rebounds and 2 assists. He had 2 triples and a block. What do we do when we see a weird performance from a bench guy in limited minutes? Let's have a look how they shot. 8 of 10 from the field. So you can just go, yeah, cool, Darren, no worries, mate. That won't happen again. So we don't need to get too excited about adding him and thinking, oh, shit, look at this, it's going to happen. No, it won't. He's not shooting 80%. It's just not happening. He only played 20 minutes and put up 19 points, which is obviously great level of efficiency, but that shooting is never going to be able to stick like that. At this point, Darren is just the deeper league sort of a guy, a 16-team and maybe a 14-team league guy, but probably more a 16-team league guy, and this was just a big performance if you happen to own him in those deeper formats, but that's really all there is to it. Nothing more to see there with Darren Williams. Let's crack on now and talk young gun of the night. Yep, it's Nikola Jokic again.
Pretty good. It's pretty good.
He's doing what Giannis was doing at the start of the season and putting up big lines without actually looking like they're big lines. Like 16, 10, and 7 is good, but it's not brilliant, but it's still good. 8 of 10 from the field. Had the 0-0 there as well, but still, big numbers from Jokic. He's still the 13th ranked player over the last 2 months. These numbers they don't look as sexy as what they may have earlier on, but they're still ridiculous. His shooting percentages are through the roof. We can talk about what Gobert's doing shooting-wise of the last month. Jokic is at 61% from the field and 85% from the line, and he's still only shooting 29% from 3 in that time. So it could actually be higher what he's doing. He's going to be a real interesting guy next season. There's a few interesting guys in that back end first, second round area. Him, Gobert. Where does Joel Embiid fit in all that? Paulie George, Dame Lillard. So much to be decided, obviously, before we get into all that. But a lot of interesting stuff. And the Nuggets were super impressive in beating the Cavs today. Jokic in particular, and everyone will talk about that post up he had on LeBron, but he had some just ludicrous type moves all throughout the game, and offensively, he is right up there. He is very, very good. Let's talk about the dud of the night now. Reggie Jackson of the Detroit Pistons, he moved to the bench. So Van Gundy pulled the trigger. He made the switch. He put Ish Smith in as the starter and moved Reggie Jackson to the bench. I had been saying that I think that Reggie will play the majority of the minutes in the majority of the games. That is no longer the case. He's on the bench. Piss him off. Get rid of him. He's done. Move on. 6 points, 1 rebound, 4 assists on 3 of 10 shooting. It's been a weird season for Reggie. I think a lot of it, or some of it, is to do with the lack of training camp, lack of preseason, the knee issues. That bothers players a lot, not having the proper preparation, but he has been absolutely dreadful. And to top it off, it just seems like he might be a marginal shit bloke, and I think that rubs his teammates the wrong way. So that is not a great sign. So get rid of him. Yep, just move on. It's pretty clear that he needs to go now in pretty much every 12, probably even 14 team leagues at the moment. Now, it's not locked in that he'll play 20 a night and that Ish is going to play 28. Look, there'll still be some of that switcheroo going around, because it's not like the switch made the Pistons look good because they were embarrassed by Chicago. So the move of Ish Smith into the starting lineup didn't click things into gear. It didn't get things cracking. They were still useless. So it's not like that this was a move that worked and Van Gundy's gone, yeah, everything's going fantastic, let's go boys, it's all working, it's all good. Like, no, it was terrible. It was potentially worse than some of their other games, so it is still a bit up in the air, but get rid of him, just move on, get rid of Reggie. It doesn't have to be Ish that you move in, but if you want assists and steals, Ish can do it, but there might be other people in there, and don't consider Ish a must-hold, must-own guy. He's a guy that you add and you stream and you use, and then when the schedule doesn't suit or what he brings doesn't suit, then move on. Get someone else, because we all know that Ish is not really that good. He is serviceable at times, but he's not a fantastic all-round fantasy player. All right, before we head into the games, what I'm going to turn into, I guess, somewhat of a tradition now, we're going to look at the questions that have come in. I've seen a lot of comments coming in on the live stream here. Let's have a look. I think everyone's just talking amongst themselves. Chris Fraser says, are you pumped that footy is back tonight? I'll be pumped tomorrow, Chris, when the Dogs play. I very rarely, I do not care about Richmond and Carlton tonight, but I'll be pretty pumped tomorrow as I head to the MCG and watch the Bulldogs begin the title defence. I'll be pretty pumped for that. Bobby Jimmy says, how long is Lopez suspended? He's suspended for 1 game, so he'll be back for the next game. Serge Ibaka got a 1-game suspension as well, so he will miss on Thursday. No other questions there, so let's get stuck straight into the games, talk about them now. The first game we're going to take a look at was the Charlotte Hornets and the Orlando Magic. Good victory for Charlotte. They needed it. They're probably not going anywhere into the playoffs, but still a good victory for them. Cody Zeller was fantastic. 29 minutes for Zeller, 15 and 6, and the 3 steals and 70% shooting from the field really helped his overall value. I like Zeller. You know that I think he's really key to what this team does, and when they lost him for as long as they did, it really impacted what they did and really started that tailspin that's going to cause them to miss the playoffs. Is he a must-own fantasy guy? No, not necessarily. He's a solid rebounder who blocks some shots and gets some high field goal percentage. If that suits you, then fine. But I wouldn't say that he's a lock that has to be on every team. Michael Kidd-Gilchrist played through his ankle problem 9-4 with 2 steals and a block, but he's not a must-own guy. While Frank the Tank, he got some extra playing time and got really hot in the fourth quarter. Scored 13 points in the fourth to end up with 18. Hit 4 triples, had 5 rebounds and a block. So a big end to the game for Frank to help get the Hornets over the line. I don't think that Frank is a must-own guy either. He's a fine streaming option. He's more a 14 to 16 team league guy. Even though he is getting the 29 minutes or so, when he was having those big games, he was getting 36 minutes. So I don't think 29 to 30 makes or labels him as a must-own guy. Kemba had 22, 3, and 7, while Marv Williams wasn't his best night, 7 and 10, but I would rather hold Marv over Frank at this point. For the Magic, Nikola Vucevic, 14 and 12, 8 assists from Vuce, 1 steal and 3 blocks, a very, very well-rounded line. He has been fantastic this season ever since Frank Vogel realized that, ever since Frank Vogel realized that Bismack Biyombo is not good and Vucevic is at least significantly better than him, that we've been giving those minutes and he's been playing a lot better, and Biyombo's wallowing in mediocrity on the bench. It was more of the same from this team. Lord Alfred Payton had 15, 5 and 5, and Evan Fournier had 15, 4 and 3, just standard production from their starters. It wasn't a great Aaron Gordon night. He had 7, 4 and 2 in 29 minutes. The Magic don't play again on Thursday, so if you need to get rid of Aaron Gordon, do it. He's hardly producing numbers that are bringing the house down, so move on. Terry Ross had his second strong game in a row, 19 points with 3 triples, 2 steals. Didn't do much else, but the threes, the points, and the steals is really what you're owning Ross for, and that's fine to add, it's fine to use, but obviously that his consistency has been a real problem lately. With Jeff Green out due to back spasms, Frank Vogel had the pre-game pronouncement that Mario Hezonja will play at the 4, and it's probably his best position. This is not the first time we've heard Vogel say this season. He said it last time when he was continuing to play Aaron Gordon at the 3, and then posited that, maybe I'll play Hezonja at the 4, and that made me, as well as many other people who have common sense, lose their shit. In this situation, understandable. There was no Jeff Green there. Hezonja was all right, I guess. He had 7 rebounds. He shot terribly, 25% for 8 points, but he looked okay. Maybe he is a 4. I don't think so. He's a 1, if anything. But Vogel has this weird... At this point, I can't trust Vogel's decision to change positions with the Aaron Gordon disaster. So if he's going to continually say that this guy is a 4, I'd like to see him get one of these moves correct before we brand it as being something accurate. Let's move on to the next game. Indiana and Boston. Good victory for the Celtics here, especially with the Cavs loss. Let's start with the Pacers. Paulie George did everything that he could do to get to get the victory here. 37 and 5. He had 5 triples. He had 3 steals. He had a block. Inefficient, which is pretty much par from the course for George, but everything else was pretty nice. Well, Jeff Teague was great as well.
My name is Jeff.
25, 2 and 6, 3 triples and a steal, and 67% shooting. Unfortunately, not one other person was able to get into double figures. Thaddeus Young, only the 25 minutes, 8 and 4. Now, he did provide the 2 steals, he did provide the 2 blocks, but that has been definitely lacking from him recently. So, there's no reason to hold Thad in every league. And Miles Turner, the offensive struggles continue to happen. 7 points on 7 shots. Now, the rest of his line looks fantastic. 9 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. That looks great. Missed both his free throws. He's lost all confidence in his shooting, and I will continue to say it, that he should be someone that you attack in dynasty leagues and try to buy low. I had someone mention to me the other day, I've got Miles Turner. How sure are you he's going to be a stud? I'm one of those people that you talk about that's panicking about him. So I don't say these things out of nowhere. I don't just make up arguments that people are worried about Miles Turner. People are. And I reassured this person that I think this guy, Miles Turner, is going to be a top 20 guy for multiple seasons. I could be wrong. Everyone can be wrong about everything at any time, really. But especially when you're in a prediction type game like this. But there are people out there who are worried, and they see this slump from Turner, this month-long, 2-month-long slump, and think, well, maybe this is who the guy is going to be. So it is your opportunity to potentially get yourself a 5-year top 20 player for the price of someone who might be a top 70, top 75 type guy. So have a look at that and see if you can get it done. CJ Miles had 5 points in 24 minutes. He starts, but who cares? While Monte Ellis also had 5 points in 25 minutes. Not a lot to see from any of those guys. Let's talk about the Celtics. Isaiah Thomas had 25 points, 5 assists, a steal and a block on 43% shooting. And when I did talk about his regression, I know many of you kept mentioning it to me, but this is what I meant, that he won't become bad. He just won't become Michael Jordan, which is what he was before. And these numbers are absolutely fine, but this is what you should have been preparing for and expecting. And I'm sure many of you were. Avery Bradley, 18 and 8 with 2 threes and a steal in 39 minutes. While my boy, Kelly Olynyk, 31 minutes. Yes, 11 and 8 with 4 assists and 1 steal and 1 3. But what is the number one rule of Kelly Olynyk Club? It's don't believe the minutes. They just won't happen. His previous 5 games, he had not only been under 30 minutes, he'd been under 20 minutes. So he played a 31-minute game, then he played 5 sub-20-minute games, and then he played another 30-minute game. I will never understand the constant flip-flopping with this guy, especially when, to me, he is just clearly better than these other options. Now, Tyler Zeller came in and did what he needed to do. Jonas Jerebko's back out of the rotation. Amir Johnson has been okay. But Olynyk is the guy that should be getting not 30 a night, but 26 a night, 27 a night, and I think that would be best for this team. Al Horford, another near triple-double, 15, 8, and 8 in 31 minutes. Since those 2 games that Thomas missed, it seemed like Horford got a lot of confidence back, and it is translating to now the time that we're seeing Isaiah back in the lineup, and it is helping what Al can do. Marcus Smart, just the 23 minutes, 9, 2, and 1. Get rid of him in any standard leagues. While all you deeper guys, Terry Rozier was out of the rotation entirely, as it looked like the Celtics were going with something closer to a playoff rotation. So that's something to monitor, whether they continue to do that moving forward. Now, I just see a question come in here from Manny Marino, who says, do you want Lin or Ish? I want Lin. And just again, so everyone is aware, if you didn't hear the other day, Lin will start. Spencer Dinwiddie is not starting the rest of the season. We have, I keep seeing people say that to me. It's not true. Jeremy Lin is going to be back. Looks like 75% chance he's going to play on Thursday. He missed 1 game with an ankle sprain. I am 95% confident he will start that first game, and if he doesn't, he will start the ones across the weekend. Dinwiddie is not starting for the rest of the season. Lin will be back. I don't think there'll be a minutes restriction. He missed 1 game with an ankle sprain. This is not a long-term lower body debilitating injury. It's a 1-game ankle sprain issue. And I think we're going to see him at 27 or so pretty much straight away. And going back to what they do, they keep mentioning how much they have been disappointed in Lin's lack of playing time, because it hasn't given them an ability to see Lin and LeVert and Lin and Lopez and Lin and Hollis Jefferson and all these guys together and see how they can mesh. And that's what they want to use these last 10 games of the season to do, to see what this actually means with these guys together. And that's how I think it's going to happen. So Manny, good question, but yeah, to me it's Lin without too much hesitation. Philadelphia and Oklahoma City, pretty big smashing from the Thunder. The Sixers, Source Castillo, 20 points for the second consecutive game. He played 30 minutes and hit 5 triples. And what's notable about this one is that Gerald Henderson was back. He rested the last game, and Stauskas still played well. Now, he offered nothing apart from the 20 points and 5 triples. He literally had 1 assist and nothing else. But that's still a good performance. So it puts Stauskas into your mind for, I need some points, I need some threes. He becomes one of those streaming options. And I'm going to keep bringing this up, but when you have players like Wes Matthews or Ryan Anderson, whose only value is threes, you get rid of him. And you can find threes from sources like Nick Stauskas, like the Duke Wayne Ellington, like anyone really, to get you a 3 or 2 at a time. When these other guys provide you nothing and are inconsistent, there's no point in holding them. TJ McConnell, a terrible scoring night, just 2 points on 3 shots, but the 4 assists and 4 steals sort of keep his value going. I still like him as a whole. Dario Saric he only played 26 minutes because of the blowout. 12, 2, and 2. He had a steal. He had 3 blocks. Also, some news on the Sixers. Joel Embiid apparently is going to have surgery in the next couple of days. The Sixers' handling of injuries is an absolute nightmare. I have no idea what is going on or why it took them 2 months to do this, why it took them a month to figure out there was a tear in the meniscus anyway, and then when they figured it out, another month to decide he needed surgery. I just do not understand the way that medical department works at all. Really, it's just a nightmare. Where are we? Jared Hunt. You know what, Jared? I'll answer your question in a minute because we're going to talk about... We'll talk about the Thunder and... Oh, no, let's talk Sixers for a bit more. Bob Cove had 12 and 3 in 25 minutes. He's still a hold. Jahlil Okafor continues to be a disgraceful defender. 6 points in 17 minutes with 2 rebounds. Terrible performance from Jahlil. While everyone's favourite backup centre, Richaun Holmes, struggled. Only played 16 minutes because he accumulated 5 fouls. I think he would have been in the mid-20s if not for the fouls. 11 and 2. No other numbers from Holmesy. If you did grab him, which you should, I would be inclined to hold him. It wasn't an Okafor factor that kept him to 16 minutes. It was a foul factor. I think he'll play more than Okafor a majority of nights, and he should because he's better. But Okafor will start. Timothé Luwawu-Cabarrot started once more. He's going to start the rest of the year. Didn't do much. 3, 2, and 3, and 29 minutes. But that's just a deeper league sort of a situation. Let's talk Oklahoma City Thunder, and Jared will talk about your question. He says, should I drop Big Steve Adams? I need blocks and threes to win my matchup this week, and he only has 1 game remaining. I don't even care how many games he's got remaining. Get rid of him. 25 minutes, 6 and 5, 2 steals and a block. He has been putrid for about the last 3 weeks. I've been mentioning that you should drop him for quite a while, and you should drop him. There's your question, Jared. Manny just chucked in a Bogdan. What's Bogdan? What's that comment? Are you telling me about streamers for threes? Do you mean Bojan Bogdanovic? Don't know. All right, Russ. 28 minutes, had a triple-double, did not miss a single shot. 6 of 6 from the field, 6 of 6 from the line. That is as good a line from Russell Westbrook. I know he's had some monsters, but in terms of just the efficiency boost that gives you, it's huge. He also chucked in 2 blocks as well, so a massive night from Russ. Enes Kanter feasted on Jahlil Okafor. I'm not sure how many of you would have seen that coming. 24 and 11 with a steal and a block for Ennis in his 20 minutes, while Vic Oladipo dropped in 18 in a very empty line in his 31 minutes. Doug McDermott continues to be useless. He did score 13 points on 60% shooting, so maybe I'm being harsh, but in true McDermott style, he added nothing else. 1 assist and nothing else. Maybe he's a 3-point streamer, but I put him well behind some of those other names that I mentioned before. Taj Gibson played 13 minutes. The usage of Taj Gibson continues to be a massive, massive confusion to me as to why he can't get more minutes than Domantas Sabonis. It just makes no sense. Sabonis played 18 here while Taj played 13. Obviously, Taj, we're talking about really, really deep leagues if you're considering owning him at the moment. Let's talk about the Atlanta Hawks and the Washington Wizards. There was still no Paul Millsap or Kent Bazemore. Bazemore's going to be out for the rest of the week. Hopefully you've dropped him if you own him anywhere. Paulie Millsap could be back for the Hawks next game, but that's not decided. That's on Friday. Timmy Hardaway started, bounced back from a subpar game. And one thing I've been really impressed with Hardaway this season is his ability to contribute in other categories apart from points and threes. Basically, he used to be a points and threes shooter and scorer who couldn't shoot. His shooting percentages were terrible, but he has really improved that this year. He had 29 points here on just 16 shots, hit 3 triples, but importantly, he added 3 assists, he added a steal, he added 2 blocks. He should be owned, I think, in most leagues. I know when Bazemore returns, and even when Millsap returns, it might hurt him a bit, but I think he's still playing the majority of minutes out of everyone on that wing. Tabo played 31 and had 10, 4, and 2, but what you really want from Tabo are the 3 steals and the two triples. Didn't have a block, but he can bring those in pretty big numbers for a wing. So if you need those stats, Tarbo's going to be a solid option to stream in. Dwight Howard had 14 and 16 with 2 steals and a block. He got shots. He took 12 of them. Only hit 5, so it wasn't a great night for the field goal percentage there for Dwight. Taurean Prince played 28 minutes, 7 and 4 with 2 steals and a block. So at least he got those defensive numbers back, but the field goal percentage has been a struggle for Princey. There's no real need, I don't think, to own him in any standard leagues, probably 14-teamers either. Dennis Schroeder dropped in the 10 turnover game. He had 18, 2, and 6 in 34 minutes, while Ersan Ilyasova was terrible. He's been much better coming off the bench than he has starting for this team. 5 and 8 in 26 minutes for Ersan. Let's talk about the Wizards. Johnny Wall had 22, 2, and 10. He had 4 steals and he had 2 blocks. The big thing that took away from his game was the fact that he shot 29% from the field and he went 9 of 12 from the line. So negatives and big negatives in the field goal percentage, but negatives in both percentage categories. Brad Beal was also subpar from the line. He went 4 of 7 there in his 28 points, had 4 triples, 9 rebounds, but he was also active defensively, had 4 steals and a block, and both Beal and Wall have been very impressive this season and have outperformed their ADPs. Marcin Gortat, the minutes got back up, 28 minutes. The production, not really. 4 and 6 with an assist. You can put him in the Steve Adams category. There is no deal with owning him. Don't own him. He's not a 12-team league guy. He's going to see minutes limited. He's going to have Jason Smith now cutting into his playing time along with Jan Mahinmi. Now, Mahinmi had 4 and 10 in his 20 minutes, while Smitty had 8 and 4 with 2 blocks in his 15 minutes. They're all just 16-team league sort of players. Speaking of Bojan Bogdanovic, which we were before, he played 15 minutes and scored 5 points with 2 rebounds. There's no need to own him in 12-team leagues, of course, not in 10-team leagues. In 14-team leagues, maybe, but he's in the Wayne Ellington category. He's a streamer for threes. That's it. He provides nothing else. Doug McDermott, that's who this guy is. He had that nice little run, which was incredibly fluky, and you should never have dropped anyone of value from, and I know you guys didn't. But this is more what Bojan Bogdanovic is. Otto Porter got his minutes back up a bit, but still not fully there. 27 minutes for 10 and 8 with 2 triples. I'd still be holding Otto despite a couple of subpar performances in a row. All right, let's talk Detroit and Chicago. Ish Smith, who did move into the starting lineup, he only played the 25 minutes. That's why I said he's not an automatic add. 9 points, but 7 assists and 3 steals is fine. The assists and his steals, he helps him, but they were obliterated by the terrible Chicago Bulls by 22 points. So that's what I mean. The move didn't work. Didn't do anything great. Toby Harris had 14, 4, and 3, while Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, man, he just didn't take shots. He took 4 shots for the entire game. Had 5 points with a steal, 2 steals and a 3. What a weird guy this is. He's just so up and down. You cannot predict what he is going to do from game to game. He is the most inconsistent player in the entire NBA, I'd say. Who is a more inconsistent, if you guys watching live or listening later, who is more inconsistent than Kentavious Caldwell-Pope? Is there anybody? I can't think of anybody. He is, in terms of production-wise, just as up and down as anybody. Stan Johnson back sort of into the rotation again, 16 minutes for 12 points and 2 triples, while Marcus Morris had 14 in his 32. And Andre Drummond, it was a great opportunity for Andre Drummond. He was going up against Joffrey Laverne, and he managed to score 8 points on 33% shooting. The mixture of Drummond and Van Gundy has been terrible for his offense. His offense was fine before you're doing what he did. Alley-oops, putbacks, dump-offs, instead of trying to work on a post-game. It hasn't worked. Van Gundy needs to give up on it and utilize his strengths rather than trying to make his weaknesses into something great. You've given it 3 years. It's just not happening. Now, he still had 17 boards. He had a block, but the shooting efficiency has just gone completely in the shitter since Van Gundy arrived. The tackle box had a nice little hot run early and ended in 13 points in 17 minutes. He had 6 boards as well, Johnny Lewis. So it looks great, but I don't buy that he's going to score 13 points in 17 minutes really all that often. As for the Bulls, they were without Robin Lopez, who was suspended for this one game, and they had no Cristiano Felicio, who was out with that back issue. So enter Joffrey Laverne, who started at center. 28 minutes for Joff, 17 and 7 with 3 assists, a steal, and a triple. Big production, big performance from Joff. Really good. I wouldn't be holding on, expecting it to continue, especially Lopez is back in the next game, and you're probably going to have Felicio back as well. But that's nice. Now, I don't think that Laverne is a great player, but I think he's decent-ish. And it's a name to watch if ever a situation like this appears again. Jim Butler had 16, 5, and 12, and like Russell Westbrook, did not miss a single shot. 6 of 6 from the field and 4 of 4 from the line. Weird to have 2 stars have completely perfect nights. Just don't see it happen that often. 2 strong games in a row for Paulie Zipser as well. Zipsanity had 15, 4, and 2, and a triple one. 29 minutes for Zipser. Or if you're in a 16-teamer, you probably look at him. In a 14-teamer, maybe. In a 12, probably not yet. I'm not putting too much faith in those 2 games. Rajon Rondo, 5 points in 28 minutes for Rondo. 9 assists and a steal. The shooting prowess, the aggressive offense has disappeared after those quite fluky-type performances. Where are we? I've got a couple of people who are throwing in comparisons to Kentavious Caldwell-Pope's inconsistency. Reggie Jackson, Mirotic, no way. KCP's more. Don't start me on Mirotic. I'm going to talk about him in a sec. Danny Green is more inconsistent. No way. I'd say Danny Green is just consistently low in production. Where's the big game that he ever has? I think you know what you're going to get from Danny Green every game. You don't know what you're going to get from KCP. As for Rondo, I think he's still worth holding in most leagues. Well, we had a re-emergence of Jaren Grant. After starter to DMPCD for 5 games and back into the rotation, playing small forward at times, 15 minutes for 7 points. I don't expect that to stick. Bob Portis had 12 and 6 in his 23 minutes, but man, I just don't think he's good. While the man I do think is good is Nikola Mirotic. 39 minutes for Mirotic, 28, 5 and 2, 4 triples, 3 steals, 1 block. The 80% shooting is ludicrously high. It won't continue. He won't shoot at that sort of a rate. We're well aware of that. But this is what I have been harping on about for 2 seasons. Play the guy, use him correctly, and let him work through a missed shot. If he has 2 shots, don't go and sit his ass on the bench for 15 consecutive minutes, as is what Højbjerg has done. Mirotic and Butler together is a very good combination. It should have been what's happening all season. I am firmly in the camp of Mirotic should be owned in standard leagues. I know that the last 2 games people will look at it and go, that's terrible, but the games before that were really good. And the coaching is just horrendous. It is just horrendous. I know they won by 20, but the fact that you just can't figure out that I just need to give this guy a consistent role and he is better than Bob Portis or Joffrey Laverne, whatever other crap you're throwing out there that he needs to play in this role, he's really key to what this team is. He's their second best player. There's no doubt about that, especially with Wade out at the moment, and you could make the argument that he's better even when Wade plays. Denzel Valentine lost some of his minutes to Jaren Grant, 22 minutes, 8, 4 and 2 with 2 triples. He's really just a streaming option, but I would hope he can get back to 30 a night and we can see what's actually going on down the stretch. I don't know, maybe the Bulls are going back into win mode for the playoffs. Who knows with this team? They change their mind literally every single day. The Cleveland Cavaliers and the Denver Nuggets, the Cavs, they got their full team all back in action here. Kyle Korver was back, so J.R. Smith moved into the starting lineup. But wouldn't you know it, J.R. Smith was terrible yet again. 3 points in 21 minutes for Smitty. He had 3 assists and 2 steals, and he's just been bad in terms of his fantasy production all season. There's no need to have anything to do with Smith in any fantasy leagues, but he's in the 3-point streaming category, as is Kyle Korver, who played 19 minutes and had 9 points with 3 threes. There's no reason to own Korver as a consistent option. I think that these 19, 20 minutes is going to be very similar to what he gets most games. He can still hit 2 or 3 threes a game, but he's just not going to do anything else. Iman Shumpert played 17 minutes as well, and that's pretty likely what he's going to be able to do majority of nights as well, just with all these other guards here, 5, 3, and 2 for Shump. LeBron had 18, 6, and 5. It was good. It wasn't a great night, while Kyrie had 33, 2, and 3, and Kevin Love just the 9 points in his 22 minutes with 7 rebounds, 2 steals, and a block with 3 triples. These are the sort of things that I was worried about with Love. Coming back from the injury, thinking you might not get full Kevin Love throughout your playoffs. This is why I was a little bit hesitant about adding him. Now, he did come back obviously ahead of schedule, and he had a big game against the Lakers, but this is the worry that I had, that we're going to see this limited playing time from Love as he gets things back together, and that is a little bit of a worry for your fantasy team, and you might need to move on. I don't think I would. It's a pretty ballsy call, but if he's going to play 20 minutes a night, you might have to. It is ballsy though. All right, the Denver Nuggets, they were without the Rooster, Danilo Gallinari, but Wilson Chandler, good old baby neck, he was back. 41 minutes, 18 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists and a steal. If he's around, go and add him. They moved Chandler over to the 3. They moved Juancho to the bench, and they kept the Mason Plumlee, Nikola Jokic front line. So Plumlee played 26 minutes and had 12, 7, and 4 with a steal. I don't think you need to hold on to Plumlee in 12-team leagues, especially with Wilson back. He's not getting the 30 minutes anymore, and that's still a pretty good line from Plumlee, but it's not enough looking forward for me to think that he should be owned. Ken Fareed was fantastic in this game, and I'm not a massive Ken Fareed fan, as you would know, but he was great. 17 and 9 in 19 minutes with 2 steals. Just keep him in mind as a streaming option for points and boards. Farton Will Barton, 20 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 threes, and 2 steals for Barton in his 33 minutes off the bench. Yes, that will go down once the Rooster returns, but while Gallinari is out, Barton has value a lot of the time. It's going to be up and down. It's going to be a pain. We know that, but the minutes will be fine. But one thing that will happen is that once Gallo comes back, Farton Will Barton is not taking any minutes off Gary Harris.
Nice, Gary!
Because he is ridiculously good at this point, and he's going to get better. 32 minutes for Gaz, 21 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 triples, and another efficient night, 57% from the field. his efficiency this season has been off the charts. He hits threes. His assists are impressive. They're getting up there. His steal numbers are good. He is looking really, really good. The Blue Arrow got sensationally hot at one stage in the second quarter. Ended up with 15 points in 20 minutes, Jamal Murray. He had 3 triples and 3 assists. I don't think he's going to be a 12-team league guy in the near future. I thought they might go with him as a starter, but it doesn't appear they're going to go that way, at least not yet. Jameer Nelson played 28 minutes as the starter, had 3 points and 9 assists, and he is not a must-own guy, clearly with that sort of a performance. Let's go on to the next game now. We have got the Milwaukee Bucks and the Sacramento Kings. Gianni, 32, 13, and 6. A 3, 2 steals and a block, a very, very well-rounded performance from Antetokounmpo, while Chrissy Middleton had 13, 2, and 3 with contributions in the 1-1 categories as well. There was no John Henson, so what do you reckon Kidd would decide to do in that situation? We've got Greg Monroe, our best center. Maybe we give him a couple of extra minutes. Maybe our starting center, who we give 2 minutes a game to, maybe we can give him some of John Henson's minutes. I know, let's use the guy that we're not playing at all, Spencer Hawes, and let's just give him all of John Henson's minutes, because that's logic. Well, here we are. And that's what happened. Spencer Hawes played 18 minutes and actually produced. He's still not good, but he produced 10 points with 2 triples and 2 blocks. Deeper league guys, you want to be paying attention to this, because if Henson happens to be out for longer periods of time, then Hawes can contribute in 18 minutes for, say, 16 or 18 team leagues. Greggy Monroe, 20 minutes. This is like 4 or 5 consecutive games of under 25 minutes for Monroe. 15 and 5 is still obviously really good, but the minutes are just a massive, massive pain in the ass for consistency or predictive consistency for what he is going to do. So, yeah, I think in most cases you want to hold, but it's not a lock, it's not a necessity. Tone Snell only played the 24 minutes because we needed to get Jason Terry in there for 22. And Malcolm Brogdon played 29 and had 12 points with 4 assists. I would have Brogo over, say, someone like Ish Smith. So if you're making that decision, that's who I would rather have. But again, if you're just looking for assists, then Smith's going to win out. But if you're looking for points with some threes, Brogdon's going to help. And that's where the decisions come. So you're asking me a question, who do I own? Who do I get, Brogdon or Smith? It's never as simple as that, because it's all about relative strengths and matchups, and what your roster looks like, what your opponent's roster looks like, what your current score looks like. It's never as straightforward as who do you want. Sometimes it is. If someone says, who do you want, someone or Terrence Jones, it'll always be the someone else, because Terrence Jones played 2 minutes. At least he got on the court in what is one of the weirdest situations, really, of this season in terms of buyout market. Just what a weird situation. As for the Kings, rest. Yes, there it is. It's going to happen every game. Someone is going to rest. It's going to continue to happen, and we're never going to know who it's going to be. Ty Lawson and Costa Koufos rested in this game, and a lot of people look at that and go, right, Dazza, big Daz Collison, let's go. No Ty Lawson, but that's just not what they're doing. There's 2 point guards on this team. I guess 3 if you want to count Langston Galloway. I don't count Garrett Temple. No Ty Lawson. Collison plays 27 minutes. Galloway doesn't play at all. So they were running Temple as the point guard. They ran. I guess you can count Tyreek in there, I guess, as well. But what I'm trying to get at is that Lawson out doesn't mean 35 minutes for Collison anymore. It did at one stage. It doesn't mean that at the moment. Collison had 10 points with 7 assists and a steal with a 3. He's probably worth holding in most situations, but in a lot, he isn't, because he's going to be subject to rest as well. So if the Kings have a 4-game week, you might get 3 out of him. They have a 3-game week, you might get 2 out of him. So don't consider him undroppable. Garrett Temple had 12 points, and he is just a deeper league guy, while Will Cauley-Stein had 10 and 7, added 4 blocks. Scalabissiere started with Costa Koufos out and struggled. 8 and 8 for Scal with 2 steals. The minutes were there. This is why I don't believe in him being a 12-team league guy at this point. Maybe when we get to the last week of April, but when we look at big breakout performances and they come against Phoenix, it means something. Now, Milwaukee's got a pretty piss-poor front court in terms of allowing oppositions to get fantasy stats, but he wasn't able to do that in this game. Scal, I think he's going to be good. I really like him, but I just don't think that he's a lock for fantasy value. Bud Hield scored 21 points. He had 4 rebounds and 2 threes. Great 3 streamer, good points streamer, offers very little else. Struggled from the line in a weird situation here, only going 3 of 5, but good field goal percentage. He can be owned. If you show me a 12-team league roster and it saw Bud on it, I wouldn't say, man, are you okay? I would look at it and go, yeah, that makes sense. He's also someone that I wouldn't go, I'm stopping the podcast right now to see if Hield is available. Like, I wouldn't do that. He's not that sort of a player. Aaron Aflalo back to starting after missing a couple of games for personal issues, 12 points in 23 minutes, and he continues to be absolutely terrible. While Georgios Papagiannis had 4 and 7 in 23 with 2 blocks, a nice deeper league guy, a rebounds, blocks, streamer for 14-team leagues perhaps. The last game of the night, Jeff Hornacek. Man, this team is as annoying, as confusing, everything. I could speak for 25 minutes straight on the bullshit that goes on with the Knicks. The fact that we have people coming out here saying that the triangle is going to be a great recruiting tool. The fact that the team is struggling and Phil Jackson's answer to that is we need more triangle. Do they understand anything about the modern landscape of the NBA? And when your own players are going, man, this offense is bullshit. How does that translate in someone's head to, oh, our players think it's bullshit, but you know what? Everyone in the NBA, they'll want to come and do it. Will they? No, they won't. Nothing about this makes sense. The constant shuffling of the big men. You're going up against one of the best centers in the NBA, so let's take one of our big men off and move Billy Hernangomez to the bench and put Kristaps in as the 5. Now, I love Kristaps at the 5, but the fact that you're chopping and changing in a matchup against a guy like Gobert, you move your center off the court. It makes no sense. Hernangomez played 17 minutes and had 9 and 10 with 2 steals. He is not a must-own player because of shit like this. Porzingis, 24 and 7 with a steal and a block and 3 triples. The next thing, multiple reports sourced straight from Melo. We are not going to play the veterans as much anymore. We're going to start to limit them. The last game, Melo, 26 minutes. Rose, 27 minutes. Lee, 21 minutes. We're going to start giving all our rookies a go. We're going to run out 5 rookie lineup combos all together. We want to see what they can do. We want to limit what our veterans do. We're going to start cutting their minutes down. Melo's like, I don't agree with it, but I'm at peace with it. I understand what's happening. This is what we're going to do from now on. This is what I've been told. Next minute, 36 minutes to Melo. 32 minutes to Derrick Rose, even though he had to leave the court and miss 5 minutes of game time due to an ankle problem. Came back into the game when he's supposed to be having his minutes limited. Courtney Lee, 35 minutes, and he's not that good. Does this team understand how to do anything correctly? Honestly. And I'm not even a Knicks fan, and I give this much of a shit about it. As for Rose, 17 points with 6 assists. Yes, and he left the court with an ankle issue, came back in. Again, for what reason? Who friggin' knows? Absolutely no need for it. Had x-rays after the game. X-rays were negative, but he's got a brace on. He's limping around the court. So who knows if he's going to play? The Knicks play again Thursday. I don't think that he's going to play, but that's a possibility. So that means we're going to see more rugged Ronnie Baker. We're going to see Chase and Randall. Baker played 21 minutes and had 7, 2, and 2, but Baker's just not a guy where you look at him and go, oh, this is going to be an awesome situation where I need to use him for DFS or I need to add him. It might be worth a DFS GPP. Same as Randall, but can you trust what Hornacek's going to do? I know I can't. Cock played just the 9 minutes while Justin Holiday got 8 points in his 19 minutes, and Lance Thomas played 32 minutes, scored 4 points with 9 rebounds. The fact that this guy continues to get such big minutes on a consistent basis is baffling to me. Fine, he was pretty good defensively last year. He's not the same this year. He's not shooting the same. He's nowhere near the player he was last year, but it's just a continual persistence with running him out there. For the Jazz, still no Derek Favors, and we decided to make a change and put Boris Diaw as a starter. He's toast. He's finished in the NBA. I don't know why we continue to start him. 5, 1, and 1 in 14 minutes for Boris, while Joe Johnson had 10, 4, and 2 in 23 minutes. Georgie Hill had 15, 7, and 4, while Gordo Hayward wasn't his greatest night, but still pretty good. 19, 8, and 3 in 39 minutes. Rocket Rodney Hood, just the 21 minutes for Rocket, 3 and 3. Please don't own him in 12-team leagues, or at this moment, probably not even in 14-team leagues. While Joey Ingles, he played 25, and it wasn't a great night for him either. Dante Exum out of the rotation at the expense of Howell Neto. Don't understand it, but that is what it is. 10 points with 2 triples for Neto in his 14 minutes. All right, before we take a break, I'm going to see if there are any other questions that have come in that I can answer. Someone telling me... Now, Anthony, you said we need more cowbell. That is exactly what was coming into my head when I was saying we need more triangle. And if I had someone here who could have... I just needed that clip put up But that's exactly what was going into my head. Just Phil Jackson banging the triangle during the what's the song called? Fear the Reaper. That would have been pretty interesting. Where are we? Any other questions? Take a deep breath. Yeah, I know that pissed me off. Thank you, Manny, for that. Got another listener to the podcast who submitted the music from their band. It's called Cimarron. You can find them on iTunes or Spotify. Plus, there'll be a link to the music on redrockbasketball.com in the show notes to the show. So take a listen to one of the songs from their new album, and it is called Afro Blue. All right, we're back. Let's talk perfect DFS lineups. But before we do, Anthony has a question. He says, what do you think about Kyle Lowry's chances of coming back? I don't think they're good. I don't think you need to be too worried about it. And again, you'd be holding on to a 0 for at least this week, probably next week. At this point, he's had a checkup and he says he's still on schedule. But we don't... This is what they said, and this is what just shits me. He's still on schedule, but he doesn't have a firm timetable. How can it be on schedule if there's no schedule? How does that make sense? It's like saying, oh, the trains are running on time. What time are they supposed to leave? I don't know. But they're on time. Does anyone know the time? No, we've got no idea what time this train's supposed to leave. But I can tell you one thing, it's on time. When's it leave? Who knows? Timetable? No, they don't exist. But train's running on time. Trust me. How does that make any sense? How can you be on schedule and not know what the friggin' schedule is? Anyway, I don't think we're seeing Kyle Lowry that's going to have any influence on fantasy. Maybe when you get to the 5th of April, you might see him come back, but I don't think you're going to see him this week. I don't think you're going to see him next week. And again, holding a 0 is a pretty tough ask. Let's talk FanDuel lineups. Johnny Wall, 47.4, and Darren Williams at 28.8. Tim Hardaway, 41.9, and Yanni at 62.6. Ballinelli, 27.1. Paulie George, 49. Cantor, 41.2. Nikola Mirotic at 44. And Gobert, 60.1 for a total of 402.1. And that cost $59,700 on DraftKings. Yanni had 65.25. Beal, 52.75. George, 54.25. Laverne, 32.25. Cantor, 43.25. Darren Williams, 30. Mirotic, 46.75, and Rudy Gobert, 63.25 for a total of 387.75 points, and that cost $49,700. There are only 5 games on Thursday, so it's not as bad as what it could be for one of these national television type days, but still, it's not an ideal situation to have 5 games, but it's still definitely a playable slate. The first game is Phoenix and Brooklyn. The Nets are favored by 4. The Nets are favored by 4. The total is 223.5 points here. We need to check on the status of Big Sauce. He was unable to play in the last game with a stomach illness. I imagine he'll be fine unless it's one of those Rocket Rodney Hood pants shitting situations that seem to last a week. Or maybe it's an Omar Ashik illness that, again, has kept him out for a month. One of the weirdest... What's he got? Ebola? What the hell's wrong with Omar Ashik? Can someone find out? I know no one can. If Big Sauce is out, obviously we're going to see more Marquise Chris and we're going to see a shit ton of Alex Len. So he becomes a good option in that spot. For the Nets, Jezelyn is listed as probable. He should be back and he should be a mid to high 20s in minutes player. That's what my expectation is. Ron Price is the other guy as well who's questionable with a leg contusion. Let's talk about the point guards here. I would if this screen was right, and it's completely wrong. So you're gonna have to bear with me while I click the buttons, because for some reason the wrong game is up on FanDuel. It's up on DraftKings. So let's talk about the DraftKings value of these guys. Jeremy Lin is at 5,600. I don't totally hate it. I don't think that anyone is going to be on Lin, and I'll tell you why. Because of that false narrative that Spencer Dinwiddie is going to continue to start for the rest of the season. As I said before, I will continue to say things about Lin. Should I add Lin? And people go, you know that Dinwiddie's starting the rest of the season. Well, I know that was out there, but it's not true, and that might keep people off Lin. So to me, he becomes a pretty good DFS play, because we know he's got 30-point upside. If he plays 27 minutes, he can easily get that sort of production, and the ownership is not going to be high. So that to me is a pretty good recipe for maybe DFS success. Maybe. It's far from a guarantee, of course, but they're the sort of factors that you want to look at in that sort of a situation, especially with that narrative that is very pervasive. I know it's not you guys that are listening to the show, because I've said it plenty of times, but that's that thought is out there, that Dinwiddie will continue to start and Lin's going to play in a bench role moving forward, which it's just not true. But that is something that's thought by people, and it is something that's out there, and that's something we need to try and use to our advantage. We don't know. We don't know what Lin will play in minutes, but he should start, and he should be getting 25 to 26 minutes again. This is not a long-term injury that he's coming back from. He's missed one game. So he is worth a squeeze. He's 6,000 on FanDuel, so the upside there is a little bit limited. If we want to talk Tyler Ulis, that's too high, man. 6,800. He played 42 minutes in the last game and put up under 19 points. He is not, at this point, over his last 5 games, all starts. He is not a point per minute fantasy producer, and he pretty much needs to be at 6,800 to get value. He plays 36 minutes, and he needs to go point per minute, and that's just not what he has been. I don't really see any value in Tyler Ulis at that price. And at DraftKings at 7,100, you can piss off. There is no way at 7,100 I have any. Look, he might exceed it, but the odds of it happening are low, and how much he exceeds it by, I don't think will be all that high. So I don't really see that as being a good option, regardless of if Ron Price plays or not. Why is Rondo Hollis-Jefferson listed as a point guard? That seems incorrect, but we'll work through that. Spencer Dinwiddie and Isaiah Whitehead, obviously not much value for those guys. With Lin coming back, really hard to see them being useful. Joe Harris and Sean Kilpatrick are out again once more for the Nets. So there are still minutes there on the wing, but that doesn't mean that Karis LeVert's going to get them. It means that Randy Foye is going to get his 28 minutes, because that's exactly what we need just to get Foye going. At shooting guard, this is really mucking me up, all these position changes. Devin Booker at 6,900 has struggled, averaging 21 points over his last 3 games. That is not an ideal amount. That's on FanDuel. He's at 68 on DraftKings and is averaging 24. I can see the upside in him in a really good matchup for Devin, but in cash he has struggled. The shot's not falling, the ankle's bothering him. Nothing great about that situation. Randy Foye, I don't really see a lot there either. Small forwards. TJ Warren's at 6,600. The numbers for him have been okay, but they haven't been $6,600 worth. I still like him as a GPP upside guy, even on DraftKings at 7,000. He can go for 45. He can go for 50. And we know the minutes are going to be there. And he is a much better, not much better, but he is a good producer of stats the majority of the time. So I do like him as an upside type of guy. Hollis Jefferson at 4,300. Do we get good Hollis Jefferson? Do we get bad one? That's why you can't trust him in cash, but you can in GPP. Take a look. He's had a 33-point game in the last 5. He's also had a 10-point game, and that's the complete frustration with the way that he is being used that does make it hard to rely upon what he can do. And Karis LeVert, very, very similar at 4,300. He's up and down. He's definitely not cash, but he's got minimal upside. But the problem is the minutes just don't come there. He could shoot 100% from the field and still get 24 minutes. He could have 15, 4, and 4 in 20 minutes, and they still wouldn't give him more playing time. That is a big problem with him in terms of upside, so I just don't like that as a play really at all. Marquise Chris I do like. He's at 5,100. He's been exceeding that value pretty much every game recently. Big one in the last one. He's averaging 28 over his last 5. That's a really, really good spot for Chris. He's at 58 on DraftKings, so it's a little less enticing there. but it's still pretty good. So I'll be pretty happy with using Marquise Chris. Big Sauce, Alan Williams is at 5,700. If he's ready to go, then I like it. I think it's a good spot to use him at that sort of a price tag. I like it a lot. 57 for him on DraftKings too. That's a pretty decent situation for him. Trevor Booker, no real interest there. At center, we're talking Brook Lopez at 7,200. This is a good option for him because it's a great matchup against the Suns. We've seen big men destroy them. Skal Labissiere. 7,200 for Brook is good. 69 on DraftKings is good as well. So I like Brook for cash and I like him for tournaments also. As for Alex Len, he had 30 points in the last game. He's at 5,100. If you want to take a punt and you know that Big Sauce is out, then if Big Sauce is out, then I think you look at Len as cash. Otherwise, you look at him as a GPP guy. But if Williams is out, then at 5,100, he becomes almost a no-brainer of a guy to use. All right, let's move on to the next game. The Raptors and the Miami Heat. The Heat are favored by 4.5, and the total is 203. Hassan Whiteside is probable to play. He's got those stitches in his hand, but he's going to be ready to go, so that's good news for the Heat. It also takes away a little bit of a value play in someone like Will Reed, who would have been a very, very highly owned type player. That's not going to be the case, though, because it looks like Whiteside is going to play. At point guard, why are all these positions all over the place? Just doing my head in. Let's talk 5,900 for Tyler Johnson. That's on DraftKings. He had a big game in the last one. I think it's a decent play for Tyler. I don't think it's the best one. It's 6,300 with a $600 price rise on FanDuel. That's far from ideal. I think you can find better options out there than Tyler. The other guy you want to look at, of course, is Goran Dragic. His price at $8,000 just feels a little bit high in what looks to be somewhat of a slow-paced matchup. 8,000 on DraftKings as well. And yes, there aren't all that many games on, but I still think that you can find better options than Goran Dragic out there at that price. Corey Joseph at 5,000. There's not many cheap point guards that are around, so I like Joseph at that price. I think that he's got some upside. I think that he's got some decent reliability as well. So at $5,000 for Corey, it's all right. 51 on DraftKings. I'm less interested in it at that sort of a price tag. For the shooting guards, we got DeMar DeRozan at $9,000, and he really burst out of his slump in the last game with almost 65 points. The matchup here is not great against Miami. Again, it's a slower pace sort of game, but we know that DeRozan's got that upside. So at $9,000 on FanDuel, 8,700 on DraftKings, and yeah, he becomes a really good tournament type player that you can take a look at. As for Joshie Richardson at 4,600, I like Richardson a lot, you know that, but he's not producing at all. But the minutes are there, so that's the positive thing, is he's getting 30 plus minutes, and that makes him useful, I guess, in a tournament sort of setting, because yeah, he can get it going. He can get the shots to fall. He can produce defensive numbers, and that gives you some upside at that sort of a price tag. Norm Powell. Look, someone's got to replace Serge Ibaka, so people are going to be searching for value on this Raptors team. But as I mentioned yesterday, a lot of the time when you have a position that's not a 5 or not a 1 go out, then it gets filled in numerous ways. You'll get Pat stepping into Serge's minutes. You'll get PJ Tucker stepping into Serge's minutes. You'll get Damari Carroll stepping into Serge's minutes. You'll get Delon Wright stepping into Serge's minutes. You'll get Norm Powell stepping into Serge's minutes. So there won't be one winner who's going to go from 10 minutes to 30 minutes. It's going to be guys that go from 20 to 26. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be superb options. They could be great options, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be these awesome guys. The Duke Wayne Ellington is an interesting GPP guy, but I don't really like that too much as a lock type of situation, of course. At small forward, PJ Tucker at 3,800. Now, I think this is a real chance to go for 24 or 25, and that might not seem like a lot, but at 3,800, it's pretty good value in cash, and there is a little bit of GPP upside there. But again, I don't expect him to come out and start dropping 40s or anything just because Serge Ibaka's out, but he gets some value. Damari Carroll becomes a GPP punt type of guy. Been dreadful, but they might play him a little bit more at the 4, be forced into playing a couple of extra minutes. So that's another thing that could be a win for Damari moving forward. For Miami, you don't want to look at any of those small forwards there. They're pretty they're pretty useless. Lukey Babbitt and Scooter Magruder. At power forward, Jim Johnson at 6,100, up and down recently. I don't see this as being a great upside play, or do I see it being a very solid cash play? So I reckon you can move on from Jim or just not really consider him as a lock. Obviously, he's got some GPP upside, but I don't see it as being great. While Pat is worth a look. He's a $3,600 player, Patrick Patterson, on DraftKings, which is obviously ludicrously cheap, 36 on FanDuel as well. And he should be getting, instead of 21 minutes, maybe 27, 28. But if we remember the time in Toronto before Ibaka got there, he was getting those minutes and doing absolutely nothing with them. And I don't think that all of a sudden, just because Ibaka's come and then gone, that it's going to make Patterson into this big producer. So I don't think it's a really great option. The other guy who can benefit from Ibaka's absence is Jonas Valanciunas. Now, Valanciunas has seen his minutes reduced spectacularly since Ibaka arrived. So do they go back to 27 or 28? Does Jakob Poeltl come in? Does Bebe return and maybe start? Like, there's many options here. JV's at 5,300. He's worth a GPP look, 52 on DraftKings, because there's upside there. He plays 30 minutes. He could easily get 30 points, and that's a nice 6x sort of return. But again, having confidence in this is a really tough thing. I like Hassan Whiteside here, though. 8,900 for Hassan. He's been killing it, averaging 45 points across the last 5. I think we've got 50-point upside we're looking at here. 8,300 on DraftKings is even more sexier. So, yeah, I really like Hassan Whiteside on both sites. That's assuming he plays, which, again, at this point, we do, because he is listed as probable, and probable means you're going to play. It is officially 75% of the time, but it's pretty much every time that those guys play. The next game is the Clippers and the Mavericks. The Clippers are favored by 4. The total is 206.5 points. Seth Curry hurt his shoulder in the last game and was a little bit sore in the locker room, so he's one to watch. If he misses, we're going to see some more Yogi Ferrell, some more Dorian Finney-Smith, some more Nicola Brasino, guys that aren't going to be sensational options. But what it could mean is we see Wes Matthews push to the 4, the pencil back, Wes Matthews to the 2, the pencil to the 3, Dirk to the 4, Nerlens Noel at the 5. That is a possibility. It might not happen. We saw when Wes went out, it didn't happen. They just pushed Dorian Finney-Smith into the starting lineup. But it is something to keep an eye on. I wouldn't have tremendous amount of faith in that. That's what's going to get Nerlens going. JJ Barea is 4,500 on DraftKings. He saw his minutes dip in the last game down to 17 minutes, but still put up almost a point per minute with 16 points there. He's at 41 on FanDuel with a significant price drop there. I like the upside. I wouldn't find him trustworthy for cash, but I think that Barea is definitely someone that we can feel pretty good about using. As for Yogi Ferrell, he does get a bump if Seth is out. He's at $4,000. There's some upside there at $4,000 for Yogi, averaging over 22 points on DraftKings in the last 3 games. And at 47 on FanDuel, though, I think it's just too high. I just don't really see Yogi being that tremendous upside sort of a guy. Wes Matthews, I just don't like it. I just don't see it happening on a regular enough basis for me to care too much there. Probably should have mentioned Chris Paul as a point guard. Hey, 9,300 for Chris. He has been playing well, but this is not a good spot. We've seen point guards be reduced by the Mavericks quite a bit, and you have to get a lot of points to get 9,300 for Chris. Now, at 8,500 for him on DraftKings, it's a much better sort of a price, and I do like Chris Paul at that price on DraftKings, but I don't like the 9,300 for him on FanDuel. Austin Rivers is a punt option, I think. We've saw some extra minutes from him in the last couple of games, and that could happen again here. 4,200 for Austin. He has marginal level of value, while Ray Felton, I don't think there's much there. Jamal Crawford, 3,800. I like the upside for a tournament. I hate it for cash. And JJ Redick, the same. He comes off to me as just being a GPP sort of a guy. The pencil Harrison Barnes is at 5,600. It's a pretty low price for Barnesy. He's been struggling. There's no doubt about that, but I feel pretty good about him being able to get back into it. 6,000 on DraftKings, I'm not interested, but at the 56 on FanDuel, yeah, I think that it's worth getting back onto the Harrison Barnes train with that sort of a price tag. It's clearly not that expensive. Dirk is at $6,000 as well. I just feel like he's $200 inflated due to his name, and that makes it not really that interested. It's 62 on DraftKings. It's even worse. So I won't be looking at Dirk over on DraftKings. Blake Griffin, of course, has some upside here. $9,000 on FanDuel. Hasn't been anywhere near that in the last couple of games, But 82 on DraftKings is very appealing, but I wouldn't be trustworthy of him. I keep saying that phrase doesn't make sense. I wouldn't be feeling that great about using him in cash, but in GPPs, of course, he can go big, but he just has struggled to a little bit recently. At center, DeAndre Jordan, 7,700. Hack is a real issue for DeAndre here, and that could limit his minutes. 7,700 on FanDuel probably is a little bit too high. 67 on DraftKings is fine, and I actually do like that there, but there is still that risk of the hack limiting what he can do, and we see his numbers are suppressed when he plays against Dallas because Carlisle does go at him pretty relentlessly. Nerlens Noel is down to 4,600 on DraftKings, and for good reason, because he's just not playing enough minutes. So unless you hear that Seth is out and want to use him in the hope that they start him, then sure, but I don't see it. He's 58 on FanDuel, which is definitely too high. I'm not interested there. Now, I didn't mention Seth Curry. He's at 5,200. He's been nowhere near that level of production, and I think that you can let him pass under most circumstances. Let's take a look at the next one. It's Memphis and San Antonio. I want to talk about games that have very limited fantasy appeal. Here we are, because the over-under is 199. That is not ideal. The Spurs are favored by 8. That is also not ideal. That is very, very that's low, especially when you're talking about the first game of the night that's got an over/under of 223. Like that's big. It's a big difference to have that sort of price difference when you're looking at when you're looking at games. It's an extra 25 points pretty much, and it means more rebounds, more assists, more shot attempts, more blocks, more steals, all that sort of stuff. The pace is a big deal. Let's talk about the point guards here. Mick Conley is at 7,400. His numbers recently have been pretty good, and he actually does okay against the Spurs. I think he's solid without being the strongest option. Averaging 36 over the last 3 in his games against the Spurs in DraftKings scoring, which is 7,400. Is pretty good. I would have thought. I don't think it's a terrible sort of situation for him at all. On FanDuel at 7,600, the same. He's all right, but not the strongest option that's out there. Now, Tone Parker, Pat Mills, I don't want anything to do with either of those guys. At shooting guard, Danny Green is at 3,600. His numbers have been poor, averaging 18 over the last 5. I just don't really see much to do with Danny Green here. Despite that low salary, I think we can leave him alone. Manu Ginobili, who's put up some okay numbers recently. I don't think there's a huge need to use him as a tournament guy or to have much faith in him as a cash option. And Troy Daniels, $3,000 for Troy. He had a nice game, but Tone Allen should be back. So with Allen likely back, then those minutes for Daniels will disappear. Now, speaking of Tone Allen, he's at 3,700. I actually don't mind Tone Allen as an option here. If he's ready to play, I think at 3,700 he can be a useful option. 41 on FanDuel for Allen is not bad. I don't think it's as strong as what it is for him on DraftKings though. Just he's a name to keep in mind as a GPP upside type of a guy. For the small forwards, Vince Carter is going to start again for Memphis. We assume he is a $3,700 player, but he's just really struggling to get it over 20 at the moment, and that is not an ideal spot. Now, he's got upside for sure. He can easily, or not easily, but he can go for over 30, and that makes him a GPP target, but his cash reliability is extremely limited. Kawhi is at 9,300 and has gone through a couple of quiet games, averaging just 31 over the last 3. But I think that this is an okay spot for Kawhi to get back to getting over 40, and he's at 92 on DraftKings. I think that he can put up enough numbers to be quite a useful player, and yeah, I like him. I like him for cash. I like him more for tournaments, but I do like him for cash as well. At power forward, Zebo, JaMychal Green, I don't really find any interest in those guys. LaMarcus Aldridge is the interesting one. He's at 7,100 and he's averaging 37 across the last 3. I like that situation for him. I think that's really, really good. That's on FanDuel. On DraftKings, it's better at 6,500. I like that spot for him. The matchup is not ideal for him, but he's done well against Memphis in the past. So I give him a little bit of leeway here, and I like the way he's been playing lately, so I'm okay with using LaMarcus Aldridge. At center, well, David Lee should be back, but I don't think we're going to worry about him. At center, Marc Gasol, 7,700, has not been really at that level lately. Has got a bad history against the Spurs. playing against his brother, does that help? I don't think it matters. So I don't think we need to get Mark happening. He is at 7,000 on DraftKings, and that's a little better. I think it's more of a GPP type of a situation. Dwayne Dedman's not really worth a look, nor is Brandon Wright. And Pau Gasol had a decent-ish game in the last one. At $5,000, he does have some upside, but I would only look at it as GPP. I don't think I want to use Pau in cash because minutes are not going to be consistent for him, and that's a big part of what you're looking for in cash games. All right, let's move on now to the last game of the night. The New York Knicks and the Portland Trailblazers. We don't know if Derrick Rose is going to play, so it does open up some value for Rugged Ronnie Baker and maybe Chasen Randall. That's not going to be great value for him, but Ron Baker's a minimum salary player on DraftKings, so that obviously would be useful. He's minimum on FanDuel as well, so you're going to give him some extra minutes. That could obviously work out, but his per minute production is pretty poor. He's at under a half a point per minute. And yes, he doesn't need to do much to bring back that sort of value, but his actual upside is pretty limited. Now, if Rose plays, we won't be using him. And I do think this one, a back-to-back for the Knicks. Do they go and actually rest their veterans, which, again, they said they would and then didn't? This might be the spot that they do it. So really using a lot of these Knicks guys is going to be tough. Dame Lillard has to be looked at. Now, whether you can trust him in cash is getting tough, especially considering the price rise. He's at 9,800 now over on DraftKings. He's at 99 on FanDuel. Now, he is averaging 50 in the last 3 games, which is fine, but I don't feel the confidence in expecting 50 out of him on a nightly basis. I look more at the upside where he can go for 60, and that makes him a very good GPP, high-priced point guard. But I don't really feel great about using him in cash. Unsurprisingly, wouldn't be using Rose, as I touched on. CJ McCollum is at 7,800. Good matchup for CJ. The price has gone up, though, on FanDuel, probably a little bit too much. He's at 72 on DraftKings, so that's a spot that I like. So I do like using CJ a lot for cash and for GPPs over on DraftKings. As for Courtney Lee, I don't think we can trust those minutes, so that's a no from me. Justin Holiday, Lance Thomas, these other wing guys, maybe, but really, you're taking a real punt. Now, Holiday's the guy that I would look at as a GPP upside guy, 3,100 on DraftKings. He's at 44 on FanDuel, which is far from ideal. I don't like that. But 31 on DraftKings makes him a very intriguing GPP sort of a play. Alan Crabb is always GPPs. We know that. Mo Harkless, Evan Turner as small forwards, Lance Thomas, very little appeal in any of those guys. Now, Harkless is playing 30 minutes a night. He's at 3,800, so you'd think that maybe you could throw him into a GPP, and I wouldn't be totally against using him as a GPP option, but for cash, he's just been so piss poor. And Evan Turner, he's just not playing enough minutes. Al-Farouq Aminu at power forward, no thanks to that one. I like Noah Vonleh. Again, 3,800 for Vonleh. He's at 38 on both sides. He's getting 28 minutes a night. He's getting 8 rebounds a night. He's getting 20-plus fantasy points a night. So that's fine. I think there's good cash value there. 20 points, 3,800. Let's go. Let's build around it. But on a night like this, when maybe there's not quite as many stars around, then you might not need a 3,800 anchor because you might be able to upgrade that to a $5,000 guy, a $6,000 guy. And that's when the value doesn't necessarily come in because you're not surrounding him with Harden or LeBron or Jokic or Westbrook or any of those sort of guys. There's just none of them that are on this slate of games. So that's maybe he doesn't become an awesome option just because of that. As for Porzingis, he's at $7,000. I like the matchup for Porzingis, so I think he's fine to use cash and GPPs. The price is definitely not exorbitant. At center, I like Yusuf Nurkic, 7,600. We've seen centers against the Knicks put up good numbers. Rudy Gobert, anybody today? That's massive, and that's pretty consistent against the Knicks. So you have to like Nurkic at 7,600. You have to like it a lot. In fact, he's at 76 on DraftKings too. Billy Hernan-Gomez, maybe they go back to him. Who knows with the Knicks? It's pretty much a toss of the coin every single day. So we just have no idea what they're going to do with Hernan-Gomez. He has GPP upside, but there is absolutely zero chance that you can trust him in any sort of cash situation. Myers Leonard's not going to play enough for anybody to care about. All right, let's have a look. Where are we at? Ben Perry says, would you risk picking up Lin for the Nets for the remaining 3 games this week? Covered it already, Ben? Yes, do it. I don't think there's any risk in it, to be honest. Pick him up. I like it. All right, let's now crack on to the picks of the day before we wrap this up. On FanDuel, Barea 41, Corey Joseph 5,000, and Lillard at 9,900. Jamal Crawford 38, Devin Booker 69, and DeRozan at 9,000. At small forward, PJ Tucker 38, the Pencil at 56, and Kawhi at 93. At power forward, Noah Vonleh 38, Marquise Chris 51, and Blake Griffin at 9,000. And at centre, Yusuf Nurkic 76, Hassan Whiteside at 89 on DraftKings. Austin Rivers 39, CJ McCollum 72, and Chris Paul at 85. Justin Holiday 31, Devin Booker 68, and DeRozan at 87. At small forward, PJ Tucker 39, TJ Warren 7,000, and Kawhi at 92. At power forward, Noah Vonleh 3,800, LaMarcus Aldridge 65, and Blake Griffin 82. And at centre, Willie Hernan Gomez 47, DeAndre Jordan 67, and Hassan Whiteside 83. Let's move on now to the Australian sites. On Moneyball, JJ Barea 41, Jeremy Lin 51, and Chris Paul 82. At shooting guard, Joshie Richardson 38, CJ McCollum 77, and DeMar DeRozan 82. At small forward, Rondé Hollis-Jefferson 4,700, Jimmy Johnson 62, and Kawhi Leonard 10,100. Noah Vonleh 35, Marquise Chris 54, and Blake Griffin 86. And at centre, Alex Len 43, Yusuf Nurkic 71, and DeAndre Jordan at 82. On Draft Stars, Tyler Ulis, still stupid price, 5,200 for Ulis. Anyone who played Draft Stars today, what was Tyler Ulis's, what was it today? The Suns played today? No, not today. 2 days ago. What was his ownership when he was minimum salary? Anyway, he's at 5,200 here. Mike Conley 12.7 and Dame Lillard 17.1. At shooting guard, Tyler Johnson 76, Goran Dragic 12.850, and Leonard at 17.2. At small forward, Quincy Acey 6,000, Jim Johnson 9,650, and DeRozan at 15.3. Power forward, Noah Vonleh 5,000, Marquise Chris 83, and Griffin at 15,350. And at centre, Patrick Patterson 64, Yusuf Nurkic 13,150, and DeAndre Jordan 15,150. Just check before we go if there's any other live questions. Let's have a look. Any of you guys chucked anything in the last 20 seconds? No, we're good. All right, follow me on Twitter at redrock_bball, same on Instagram, and subscribe to this podcast. It's the best way to make sure you support the podcast and that you get every episode download, even if you're not going to listen to it. Just download it. Downloads are very important in terms of being able to attract sponsors and helping the show keep going and helping me put beer in my stomach. Make sure you are subscribing and downloading every episode. Even if you don't get to listen to it, just give it a download. That helps immensely. Leave a review on iTunes as well. That's super helpful. And congratulations to Tom, who got his jersey. I tweeted it out today. He ordered a Porzingis jersey, mainly so I could, I'm sure, just so I could push this. Yep, so Tom got his Porzingis jersey today, which I tweeted out. So congrats again to Tom for being the 750th iTunes review. We are done here, guys. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya. Brad Stevens.